Hey everybody, it's Dom again. Today I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the basics of drafting and just things to think about before we get started with a sample draft. I'm gonna go back to ccgdex.com. By the way, this dude up here is apparently a Darksteel Colossus. I've been informed from feedback from the last videos that I apparently should have known that, so I apologize for my lack of old school Magic knowledge. But anyway, I'm already logged in. I'm gonna go peek at a few cards here just to talk a little bit about things we want to be drafting. Like, what do you want to do? There's a few things you want to consider when you're drafting. Um, like, you want a balance of all of these things in your deck, and the first one is power level. Obviously you want to be playing powerful cards. If you look at a card like Obstinate Baloth here, he's a 4/4 for 4 mana, and he has good ability. He gains 4 life when you play him. Like, that's a powerful card if you have power and toughness about equal to converted mana cost. So that's the kind of card you want, and that's why it's a rare as well, as opposed to it's like, some cards are weaker. Obviously, if you go down here towards the bottom, find a card like maybe like Goblin Tunneler. This guy's costs 2 mana. He's only a 1/1. He makes creature unblockable if it has power 2 or less. It's not too relevant really. So you're gonna be looking for cards with higher power levels. I just want to play cards that affect the board. A lot of newer players get caught up in cards like Kraken's Eye. It's like, oh, whenever I play a blue spell, I could gain 1 life or something of that nature. But you play this card, it might gain you 2 life, but it doesn't. We say it doesn't affect the board. That means that it doesn't give you anything to attack or block with. It doesn't kill any of your opponent's creatures. So you want to play things that are threatening, things that affect the board. You also want to get creatures with evasion. Evasion, like flying and trample, basically, or unblockable, something like that. Creatures like Sarah Angel. It's a good 4/4 for 5. It's pretty good to start out, and it has flying and has vigilance, so you can attack with it. You get in there for 4. You can block with it too. So that's the kind of card you want in your deck, as opposed to something like sort this alphabetically again. That's definitely better than something like a Siege Mastodon, which is just kind of 3, 4, 5 for 5. Doesn't do a whole lot. It just kind of sits there. Doesn't have a lot of power. Whoops. Close that. I also want to think about your what we call synergy. It's how your cards interact with each other. If I'm playing, let's say I'm playing a red-white deck, and then like the first turn I play an Elite Vanguard. Like, cool, 2 power guy for 1 mana. It's pretty good. And then next turn I play like an infantry veteran, or maybe a Silvercoat Lion, or Stormfront Pegasus is fine. If I'm playing these cheap, efficient beatdown creatures, it would be I would play like 3 creatures with 1 or 2 toughness. I don't want to play Pyroclasm in this deck. It's going to deal 2 damage to each creature. It's going to blow up all of my creatures. So I don't want to do that. So you'd want to play Pyroclasm in a deck where it's not going to blow up your creatures. You play cards like Maritime Guard that maybe don't seem too exciting, but as a 1/3, it's going to survive your Pyroclasm. And then another good synergy is like you might not play a card like Act of Treason by itself, where you're going to steal your opponent's creature and you attack them with it once, and then you give it back at the end of the turn. If I have a Bloodthorn Vampire, I can sacrifice a creature to give it +2/+2, so I can play Act of Treason, attack with their creature and then sacrifice their creature to make this guy bigger, which is much better. Is something else you want to pay attention to is card advantage. And card advantage just comes down to having more resources than your opponent. So, drawing cards is one way to do it. This card, you play one card, you end up drawing 2 cards, and you get to scry 4, which lets you filter, put some cards you don't want on the bottom of your library, which is also helpful. You also can get card advantage from, like, blowing up stuff at once. This is Mythic Rare, but Inferno Titan is a good example of this. You play him, you have a huge 6/6, and you get to kill something when he enters the battlefield or when he attacks. So this guy generates a lot of advantage. And it's pretty much what we want to do. You want to have a good balance of spells. Like I talked about in the part 2 of the last video, when I was building the deck, where we maximized our 3 mana spells. 3 and 4 mana is really where you want most of your deck to be, and then you want a few guys at 1 and 2, and a couple real big guys at the end to finish the game off. You don't want to get run over by your opponent's cards at the beginning of the game, and you don't want to have nothing but guys, nothing but 2/2s for 2, because then once your opponent starts playing some big guys, dropping some fatties, and then you can't deal with them. So that's pretty much what I have in mind for that. With that, we can go start our draft. Get a 8-person queue. And apparently I'm already in a queue. That's awkward. The site has a few bugs, obviously. Okay, so with that, we're going to start the draft in the next section of the video.